if you guys aren't done with me, I ain't done yet. We got a coat. I got a coat of paint on it today. It gained 1.25 ounces, somewhere in there. My decision is to sand all the bad spots with 600. There's not many bad spots. Every time is getting less and less and less. But I'm going to add one more coat of paint. Now, we were doing some changing of parts around. This is the mock-up propeller. This is the one I'm going to be using. And this particular prop, I mean, that other prop weighs 2 ounces. I don't know what this one weighs, but the carbon one should probably be 1.5 ounces, somewhere in there. But this nut right here, it weighs 1 ounce, so we're going to lose that. I'm going to turn it down half its size on the lathe, and we'll get that going. So I'm trying to get everything planned out. I'm thinking about going ahead and start doing my cockpit now. Cockpit and canopy install. Matter of fact, that's what's going to get done this week. I'll go ahead and take this thing out so that I can get it mounted. Let's see if I can find the blue tape. And we got lots of stuff on this desk. Unbelievable amount of crap. There's tape. So I want to put the trim lines on this canopy. So the first thing I'm going to do is take some blue tape. I do everything by eye, as most know. All that can happen now by taking this off is losing a little weight. Anything I can take off is a good thing now. I'm thinking I'm going to make my target weight. I've got to tape off the canopy frame itself, because I mean that is the next step to get this canopy mounted. Because after the next coat, there won't be any more paint going on it. This ain't Bondo Jim's shop. So I got to see how we did here. How does it look? Okay. So I'm going to mark where it goes on this thing. We don't want to move it. I want it right back where it was. So I'll put a piece of tape there. Paint job for one coat of paint came out surprisingly good, but I am going to do a second coat. You guys don't know me. I can't live with myself. Gotta be perfect. Or as perfect as I can make it anyway. I think maybe it's gonna need, this side looks better than the other. Hey Robert, good evening. My target weight is under 64 ounces. Now, according to the rule change, doesn't matter what it weighs this year. But if you guys have ever flown these big airplanes, the heavier they are, the harder they are to fly in the wind. Okay, that looks decent. See how we do here on the canopy frame. No good. That's no good either. It's got to be straight up and down. It's got to come forward. It's going to have to be right on that point. There we go. Get it mocked up for the tape out. Oh, that's crooked. Oh man, that is gonna be a tough one. Okay, that's straight up and down. What makes this size ship hard to fly in the wind? Think about a kite. You get high winds going, and 70 ounces, not that this is going to weigh 70 ounces, all the side area, they'll pull you right off balance. It'll wear you out. So to me, the smaller, lighter airplanes are much easier to fly in the wind. There we go. Now this particular airplane had a split windshield right in the front. I don't understand why, have no clue. But it had a post going right down the center. That's not bad. Not too bad. Well, they don't call the contest off I think it's 28 or 25 or I'm not sure. It's a pretty stiff wind. Okay, I need to see what the outline of that thing looks like. Okay, it's got goes, so it's 2. So I gotta have 2 on there. Now these motors have gobs of power. It'll it's not a big deal. Power right through it. Okay, that's that part. And it's a ½ inch down here, and it goes all the way back. Yeah. You I think the contest is called off at 25. I'm pretty sure it's 25. Let's see. We want to go all the way. One piece of tape. We'll get the canopy frame going here. Now what happens is I have to, I'm laying the frame up here, but I'm going to have to tape in between everything and then peel all this blue tape up because this is what gets painted. Okay. Then it's over the top twice. It's to split this twice. Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah. So it's another one right here. Approximately the same. Let's go this side here. I'm gonna have to take this off. think I might cut some squares on my plotter to make it perfect. Everybody knows how much I like perfect. Gotta be perfect. Yep, I think squares on the plotter are gonna be better, but at least this will give me an idea where the framework goes. So we got one more here. And then see, is that over by that thing? Yeah. Yep, I gotta move that back. I have to move that back and split the difference. Let's see, how much do we have there? It's 3/4 of an inch. That's about 3/4. That gets painted over. So now we need one on the bottom. What did I do with the razor blade? There it is. So it comes up 1/4 of an inch, or 3/8 of an inch, around the bottom, which is right here. So it comes up right to that line. That's good. Man, I guessed it right. Just put it right on that line. So I can cut some of that off too. That's good. Keep cutting. Keep cutting. Come on now, don't go anywhere. Shit. There it is. And then up there on the front, that ain't right. It's not square. I'm going to have to do what here? Well, that gives me the idea of what's going to happen. I can measure it out and cut the squares on my plotter. This side turned out better than the other side. Hey, Jim. Thank you. Well, the four blade prop is the mock-up. It's not the real propeller yet, but it will be. I will have a four blade on it. I want to tell you guys about model making. Nothing existed for this airplane. Nothing. The propeller, the canopy, the airplane itself, whatever. I can see this is leaning down. We can't have it going downhill, so this line has got to get raised up. So let's say that you want a four blade propeller. It doesn't exist. Well, maybe it exists somewhere, but I don't know where. That doesn't mean you can't have it. You got to think, how can I get it? So the internet's a wonderful thing. You can do research. You got friends, whatever. I'll tell you the story about the header on my Viper. 1991, the tune pipes were just coming into vogue. I had an FP40. Now, nobody ran an FP40 on a pipe, but I did. I didn't see why the timing. Four blades are all electric. Okay, this ain't electric. I didn't see why that an FP40 wouldn't work. Now, why, you say, well, why would you decide to use an FP40? The weight. It was light. It didn't have the bearings in it. It was a Bush motor, so it was a light engine. My Viper, the one that was in the magazine, only weighed 49 ounces on a pipe. Beam wing on a pipe. Had a less nearing pipe. I didn't know how to make a header. Bob McDonald made me a header out of a gas pipe. That thing was super heavy. It was unbelievably heavy. So I didn't know how to bend that pipe and not get a kink in it. Well, John's made himself a mandrel bender, and it seems to work okay. But I didn't have a mandrel bender. So I called NASA in Florida, and I asked them guys, how do you guys bend aluminum tubing for the space shuttle? They said, we fill it with nitrogen. Well, I don't have nitrogen. Well, we'll send you some bismuth. They gave me bismuth. It's a low melt metal. Heat it with hot water, turns to liquid, pour it in the pipe, let it cool to room temperature, turns to a solid bar. Then you can bend the pipe without kinking it, and then run it under hot water and pour the metal out. Well, I didn't know that. That's 1991, so that's 30 years ago. I was watching the Discovery Channel. They were built in a Horton 229. Now, these are Boeing engineers that you figure they'd have a grasp on the problem of pulling a canopy. Well, these knuckleheads had a big piece of Lexan on a sheet, and they had their plug in front of the oven, and they had these tongs and gloves, and they pulled that sheet out of you can watch it, it's on YouTube. They pull that sheet out of the oven and try to form it by hand over the top of that plug. I go, man, how come a modeler's not there? I'd show them how to pull that. They couldn't pull the canopy. They ended up having to cut and glue it and all that stuff. We could have, John and I could have pulled the canopy for them. Didn't even need all that whole team of engineers. What I'm getting at is, if you're a modeler, a true modeler, and you see something that you want, just make it. There's nothing's holding you back. Anything you want, just make it. My Machicastoli, the MC-72 that I built, that had the straight wing. All I did was one on the internet, and I found a 3 view of it, a little picture, and I took it to Kinko's and I had it blown up, and I made that fuselage. It was an exact scale, and I just took out the ruler. I go, well, I know these numbers work, and I made the nose this long, and the tail moment this long, and the wing this, whatever, and I put them where I thought it would work. That's what's so nice about model airplane building. It's your mind against the elements. Whether it works or not, I've had some duds, everybody does. John asked me today about this little 049 airplane I'm going to build. He said, has anybody flown that? Well, not that I know of. But I looked at it. It looks right. So it'll work. They all work. So I hope that gives you a little insight of where my head is at. So here I don't have the canopy lines parallel. Well, over there in the corner, right there where the blue stuff is a plotter. I'm going to measure up these angles that I need. I'm going to plot and cut 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 pieces out of that on that plotter. We'll use the tape as a guide, and to make it absolutely perfect, I'll cut them on the plotter and stick them on there. That's how I'm going to do that. You said, well, is that going to? Yeah, it'll work. It'll work just fine. Trust me. I didn't have, my last Thunderbolt, all the nomenclature was airbrushed on. Well, Tank Hangersley is not doing those anymore. It was $150 for a sheet of that. So I called Cali Graphics, and they don't do water slide decals. They only do stick-ons, and I ain't putting those stick-ons on my airplane. But I said, would you sell me the file for the nomenclature? She said, yes. I said, great. Send her $15. I get the file. I got a printer. I'm going to print these decals and put them on here, and they'll all be in the right spot. I didn't. My last Thunderbolt was a fantasy layout. I had a plastic model, and believe it or not, plastic models are pretty accurate. But now I have the nomenclature book or whatever of the 3 views. I know where all the correct panel lines are. And this airplane's going to get 40% of them. Yes, mine did. My sign cutter, if you look on my channel, it's one of the videos that I got about 25,000 views on. One of my most popular videos. It's a U.S. cutter, MH871. 871 comes from U.S. cutter. I use Oracover, signed vinyl, and transfer tape. If you look at my video on Gold Leaf for Dummies, some guys hate that video, some guys like it. If you ever seen my Monado, the results came out perfect. Perfect. Sign painters hate it because that's not the way you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to do it with sizing, which I have down there in the box, but I wasn't sure whether sizing was going to work with dope, so I made my own sizing from dope with retarder. It worked perfect. Trust me, it worked perfect. I think Jim's seen it. That airplane has a super finish on it. And I didn't stripe the outlines, I inked the outlines. It's whatever. How steady is your hand? Can you do it? Are you confident enough to make it work? Well, this is the end result of, let's see, it started in June, end of June, July, August, September, October. It's actually 3 months. So we got 3 months and 4 days. And here's what you got. I got an airplane. If I wanted to go fly this, I could, but I'm not going to until it's completely done. So this was the Saturday wrap up to show you what I'm doing and what I got in my mind. I wasn't going to stay on for an hour and rattle on. I've been on most of the day. Tomorrow, I'll when I sign out of here, I will probably plot my sign pieces, and that software that it comes with is called Cuts-A-Lot Pro. CUTSALLOT and it comes with the cutter. US cutter, that's who you want to search. Here's the deal on the cutter. I was painting airplanes for a guy, and I used a sign shop to cut my stencils. He would charge me $25 per airplane to cut these stencils. Well, I had 10 airplanes to paint, so that's $250. Why not take that $250 and buy a sign cutter and cut my own? So that's what I did. That's the only reason why I have it. That it sure makes it handy when you or your buddy need a number cut or a name cut or whatever. You just type it in, spit it out. It cuts it all by itself. So, and that's why I have that. It's economics. Do I want to spend $25 an airplane or $250 and have a sign cutter when I'm done? Same cost, but I end up with a cutter. So, but it's just one more, and I also have a 3D laser cutter and a router, but there's not enough time in a day when I only have an hour a day. An hour a day to work on things. How am I going to teach myself G-code? 1991, I didn't know anything about computers. Zero, zip, nada. They told me I got to know about computers. So I went to another guy who worked for NASA, Rory, who wrote code. I said, you got to teach me about computers. He said, there's some stuff. There's 5 parts in a computer. Go build yourself one. So I built one, and that was in the days of AOL, and it would go tick, 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 and each little pixel would come up. It was a 386, running on DOS. It was terrible, but I taught myself that because I had the desire, and that's the same thing with these airplanes. You got to have the desire to have this airplane. You can't buy one, you got to make it. And that's what my dad used to say, and that's what the guys at Whittier and Arrows used to say. Man, hey, mister, where do you get one of them? You can't buy them, you got to make them. And that's what makes this hobby so great, that you can't believe how many young guys have come up from control line into real aviation. I mean, lots of guys. Hoot Gibson, he's an AMA member. He was in my squadron, VF-211, VF-124. That's the astronaut. He's a control line guy. Burt Rutan, another control line guy. Where do you think he came up with a stabilator to drop the SpaceX thing or whatever the hell that thing was called out of the sky? Free flight. And free flight guys know way more than control line guys. And you say, well, what do you mean by that? Because a free flight guy the software from Fusion 360, you can design and create G-code from the software automatically. Yeah, but how much is it? I can't afford all these things. Everybody thinks that Stunhanger's making $1 million. It costs me $300 a month. It's just like paying rent. And I got to tell you, since the recession's hit, it's a free download. Well, I'll look into that. I will look into that. Thank you. Stunhanger donations or whatever have went to zip. I was going to wait till after the first of the year, because come March, I'm going to have to come up with a big chunk of money again, about $3,000, to keep Stunhanger alive. But we won't worry about that till next year when I put out the new 22 badges or whatever. And, they think you can't believe all the work that I put into these videos. How much do you think comes out of the advertising? I mean, like 12 cents. 12 cents a video. It's the way it goes. So we're not making a killing. Okay, I guess that's going to do the wrap up for Saturday. I'll be back tomorrow. I'll have those stencils cut for the windows, and I'm going to work on the cockpit. I need to make a gun sight, throttle quadrant, and I got to make another dashboard. I left it over John's, but that's not a big deal. Just print it on my printer and cut a piece of wood and glue it to it again. No big deal. I also left my primer over there, but that's no big deal either. I'll get that next week. But I'm not gonna sand on this tonight because the paint is too green. But it is gonna get sanded again with 600 paper, and I'll get all the little imperfections out of it that I can. It'll get one more coat of paint, super thin. I'm gonna thin that paint again. I only use that much in the quart jar. So if it's a pint is 16. If that's 32 ounces and I use that much, we'll say we use 4 ounces of paint out of it. I'm going to pour that thinner into that, shake it up real good, and it'll get a real slick wet coat on the whole thing after it's all fixed. Now John and I were talking today, and I want to tell you about this paint job. This paint job is silver gray. You can't see any silver flake in it. You won't see any silver flake in it until the clear is on it. But the minute you sand it, it's ruined. You can't just sand it and spot it because the flake models. It's kind of like painting a candy apple airplane. If you had a candy apple red airplane and you try to repair that, you'll never match it. So I'm going to sand this whole airplane one more time, 600, get all the spots out of it, one slick, nice, thin coat over the whole thing, and that'll be the end of that. And of course, the trim colors, it gets the invasion stripes. My other one had invasion stripes on the bottom. I'll probably just do them on the bottom on this. It gets a yellow leading edge, which de-icing boots are black, but we're going to paint ours yellow. Gets the gun sights, the rondelles, and there's a lot of trim to go on it. So, the invasion stripes around here. So, and then of course the yellow lightning bolt down here, the green nose and the green turtleneck, and then the checkerboards on the nose. I'm not doing checkerboards on the tip, and it's the hardest thing. The hardest thing to do is on the tip. To get those checkerboards to look right. I think it took me 2 weeks to get them other ones taped out. The one that I did on that Ty Marcucci's got, and my Thunderbolt 3. I did the one that Top Flight stole my paint job. So we'll see if Top Flight steals this paint job. It's going to be similar but different. That really bums me out. They took my paint job and gave me no credit. They have a top flight Thunderbolt kit that has my paint job on it, and I can prove it's mine because I did mine in 2004. And their paint job or 2005, and their airplane didn't come out till 2010. So somebody's went, hey, I like the looks of that. Let's copy it. Which I should be flattered, but they could have gave me credit for it. Anyway, that's the wrap up. I really appreciate you guys watching. I hope I teach you something in these videos. They're long and they're boring and they're a ton of work. But if you do it, and I'm not saying that my way is the only way. My way works for me. And if it works for me, anybody can do it. So I know you can do it. But you do have to remember, sanding is an art. It's not a gift. I do what? Sanding is an art. It's not a gift. It's a learned operation. So if you want to learn how to sand like I do, get a block of wood and start sanding, because that's what it's going to take. Sanding and sanding and sanding. And sanding is the key to a light airplane. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow in the morning. Fair winds, tight lines. Keep building. See ya.